activities that they were doing. And sitting in the slideshow, all the devotees, some few devotees, they only had 7 devotees. They would, as soon as they would see something, they would say, wow. And Sandy and I would look at each other and laugh, you know, what are they saying as well?
Speak just a little more slowly,
Oh.
because it gets merged.
Okay. And so, as they kept saying like that, and they would say wow, and we would laugh at them. Then later on, I joined this con and had a slideshow, and I was the one saying wow. So like that in San Diego, let's see what it says. The Balboa Park, that temple, actually, that San Diego temple was next to the Balboa Park. So we used to sometimes go in there. A lot of people, especially hippies, would come from the Balboa Park, and it was very, very nice. They had a wonderful Sunday feast, and it was really elaborate, and many people came to that feast just to have the feast, and later on joined it because of wonderful prasadam. When I first joined, I actually was, there was one girl that we used to make bead bags because we had nothing from India in those days. So one girl used to make bead bags, and she gave me a bead bag, and I thought I'll put the name of Krishna on it. So I embroidered what I thought was the name of Krishna on in Sanskrit on the bead bag, and everybody in the temple loved it. So I was embroidering this Krishna on everyone's bead bag, including the brahmacharis. And then one day, a couple came up in their home, their van. They had a big van which they made into a traveling home. And they drove up to the temple. And on the top of the cab, the driver's cab, they had this big, I don't know what you call it, like a sign. And it had the letter Om. And I said to the boy, and he jumped out of the cab, and I said, oh, you have Krishna on your truck? He said, no, I don't have Krishna on my truck. What are you talking about? And when he looked around, I said, there, it's up there. And he said, that's not Krishna, that's Om. You people don't know anything. So I was so embarrassed, and then afterwards I got it from some of the devotees that you put Om on my bead bag. Now what am I going to do? Actually, there was a picture in the temple room. We didn't have deities, but they had some Vrijavasi posters. There was a poster with a Krishna, and underneath there was this Om. So I thought, that must mean Krishna. And that's how I got that symbol. So that was my first big mistake.
Actually, it was not really a mistake.
Huh?
Actually, it's not really a mistake.
Yeah.
But
The devotees didn't appreciate it. Okay, so we had a Guru Puja, but it was just a Guru Gauravastakam in English only. And we'd have like a greeting of the deities, but there were no deities. They would just open the curtain, and there was Panchatattva picture. And all the cyclic succession was there. So it was kind of strange. And let's see, what is it? Xeroxing. Before I joined, actually, I was in the bank, and they had this one handbook, a devotee handbook with all the rules and regulations in it. And so I took that handbook to the bank, and I Xeroxed many, many copies for all the devotees and and other people that are living outside and all. So that was one of my first services, was to Xerox the handbook.
It was a long handbook.
It was big. It was quite big, actually.
Yeah.
Big, big size. It was a big thing for the bank to let me do that. Charanamrita was very thick yogurt, and it was sweet, and it was very thick. And I don't know how they made it, but it was really wonderful. They didn't have any deities.
They probably use a lot of yogurt.
Yeah, right. Very thick
It's
yogurt.
probably the best charnamrita I've ever had anywhere in the world except for London.
Yeah, well, this was my best in that San Diego temple with no deities. But the wonderful Charan was there. Actually, the first time I ever saw ISKCON deities, or any deities, was in Los Angeles, 1969, I think it was. They had just installed the deities. And I went up there, I wasn't a devotee yet, I was just driving around in my car. And I went up there and saw them. It may not have been 69, maybe a little later, but that was my first deities that I ever saw. And so from San Diego, after some time, I left. And my son, I had a son, and he had gone to Boston area to be with my mother because he didn't approve of my association with devotees. So I went there, and then after some time, there was an announcement that Prabhupada was going to have the Bhagavad Dharma discourses in Pittsburgh. So I got to go to that, and I'm just over in Boston. Boston is. Let's see. We had a tape, a cassette tape, of the Sringadev prayers by different sannyasis and kirtaniyas in ISKCON. And that they used to play this tape during the day in the temple. And it was the most ecstatic tape with so many wonderful kirtaniyas singing their own way the Lord Sringadev prayers. And that's all there was on the tape. And it was really wonderful, and I'll never forget it. I don't have a copy. They had a little, in Boston, they had a little garden outside the front door. The temple actually used to be a funeral home. So there was a lawn and there were flowers and everything in the front, and they used to have petunias. And I would go out and collect the petunias for the deities in the afternoon, and they'd decorate the deities with the petunias, and I would be so happy that I picked those flowers. One of my first things I did. No. The ashram, ladies' ashrams in those days were no pictures on the walls, there weren't a lot of pictures, and let's see.
Do you remember anything about the Bhagavad Saptaka?
I'll come to that. That's in Vrindavan. Okay, and distributing now. Let's see. I did send a letter for initiation. I did in San Diego also. I never got answers from those two letters. From Boston, well, there was a notice that Prabhupada was going to give Bhagavad Dharma discourses in Vrindavan. So they had this big, Boston Temple had this big Sankirtan bus, and it was kind of like divided by a wall, and you could, the front side was for brahmacharis, and the back side, they had some ladies there, so 3 of us ladies were allowed to go to that. And we first arrived in New York, and Prabhupada was coming in the airport, but we didn't stay there. The person in charge decided to go straight to Pittsburgh because Prabhupada would immediately fly into Pittsburgh. So we went to Pittsburgh, and in that temple, everyone was gathering to get ready to go to the airport to see Prabhupada at the Pittsburgh airport, but somebody had to make the garland. So I was the low man on the totem pole, so not being initiated, I got to make the garland and stay back. But they gave me all these red roses, beautiful American Beauty red roses, which are just like velvet. They feel just like velvet, and the fragrance is unbelievable. And gardenias, which everyone knows, Radharani, and you know how Gandharaj, they're so wonderful. So I made a garland, 1 rose, 1 gardenia, 1 rose, 1 gardenia, and I didn't really know how tall Prabhupada was. The garland was very huge. But then, as I finished it and I looked around, I realized I was probably the only person in the whole temple. And I got a little scared for a minute, and then the doors flew open and devotees ran in. Where's the garland? Where's the garland? And someone came over to me and grabbed the garland, and I was thinking in my mind, I imagined that I would be able to put the garland on Prabhupada, but no way. And so they took it from me and they put it on Prabhupada, and after my obeisances, and I saw him with the garland actually reach down to his feet. It was so big. And then Prabhupada went into the next room where they had a vyasa sign for him. So he wanted to give an arrival address. But as he walked by, he was actually just floating through the room. And the garland was swaying back and forth as Prabhupada was walking. And he actually wasn't touching the floor. His feet were not actually touching, just a little bit above. He actually floated. And other devotees saw it. They were speaking like that. They were saying, oh, Prabhupada's not, he's floating in the air. He was not way up in the air, just like a little bit, but he actually was not touching. And the garland was just flowing back and forth, and it was just the most beautiful thing I ever saw. Then Prabhupada went in there and he sat down to give an arrival address. And Prabhupada, first of all, he said, no one is allowed to take notes. Everyone must just hear me. Just hear me, don't take notes. Unless there's someone who can take every single word, they can take notes. Otherwise, you're not allowed. Everyone just sit there and just hear me. And I took it, I thought in my mind, Prabhupada was giving me permission to take notes because I had shorthand. So I said, oh, Prabhupada's giving me permission. I took out my shorthand pad. And I was too far in the back of the room, I couldn't hear him. So I stood up and I looked around, where can I sit down and where can I hear him? And there was only one spot in the whole room. It was packed. Right next to the Vyasa sign, there was a big space. So I just, somehow or other, I just crawled through everybody, stepping over everyone, and I got over to that space and I sat down because I had to hear him. And then I realized that everyone in the whole room, their eyes were glued on me. And then I just sort of looked up at Prabhupada and I gave a big smile. And he was looking down at me, but he didn't smile. He just turned around and he started speaking. So then I quickly started taking all the notes. I couldn't take the Sanskrit because I just couldn't figure out how to transcribe Sanskrit into shorthand. But I got all of the English. And as I was doing the shorthand, someone was sitting behind me was saying, it's Arabic. She's writing in Arabic. And I said it several times, and finally I turned around and I shouted at them, it's shorthand. And Prabhupada kept looking at me. He kept watching me. And as he would speak, then I would write it. Then he would watch the seed, make sure I got it all down. And if I was a little bit behind him, he waited for me. And he did that in the whole lecture. It was just like he was dictating to me. He spoke something, and he saw that I got it all down, and he'd speak again. The whole lecture was dictated to me, and I was so amazed. Such mercy he gave me that day. Then finally he was finished, and he got up and he walked away, and that was all. But when I went back to the Boston Temple, I actually typed up many, many copies and distributed them to so many people, so I was so happy to be able to do that seva. Then Prabhupada went from Pittsburgh by car in a big entourage to New Vrindavan. And we also all went to New Vrindavan. And the Bhagavad Dharma, famous Bhagavad Dharma discourses were there. Actually, they had a pandal made way up on the top of one of the hills. And it was quite a big hill. And I had trouble with my knees, and I didn't think, how am I going to climb that hill to hear these discourses? I didn't know how I could do it. Then, standing at the bottom of the hill, and there were some other devotees, then Prabhupada's car drove up, in a big, long, big, fancy Lincoln Continental. And Prabhupada got out, and he came over to the bottom of the hill, very close to me, actually. And some people were there, and then Kirtananda Maharaj came, and Prabhupada said to him, do you want me to walk up the hill? And so Kirtananda immediately turned around and started shouting for the palanquin, where's the palanquin? And so the palanquin came, and Prabhupada got in. And as he went by, as he went by me, in the palanquin, all my trouble with my knee went away. And I was able to climb that hill with absolutely no difficulty. And I had another godbrother, Petit Pavan, who was an astrologer. He also was having a very horrible, migraine headache for a couple of weeks. And as soon as Prabhupada went by him in the palanquin, his headache went away and it never came back. So Prabhupada was really mystical that day. Then he gave that first discourse. I was sitting in the middle of the group, in the middle of the whole crowd, thousands of people. And there was one boy at the end of the lecture that he stood up and he kept asking a question. Prabhupada said, "Are there any questions?" And one boy stood up and he was asking this question, and Prabhupada could not hear him. And he'd tell him, "Please repeat." And so the boy would repeat it, and again Prabhupada couldn't hear him, and again he would say, "Please repeat," and this went on several times. Finally Prabhupada went and he took his hand like this around his ear, and then held his hand out like that. And he said, "Now repeat your question." And Prabhupada heard it perfectly after that. This is caught on the video. There's a number 11 video that the Parvati shows and I show here, and that you can see it. I don't think anybody understood, but I understood. He was hearing that boy with this power. So that was it was just a mystical day that day. And so that's, he gave 5 lectures there at that Bhagavad-jama, and I took them all and I distributed all those notes to many people in the Boston temple. And then finally one day the temple president told me, "Okay, no more notes. Now you do your seva." So, Dallas. From there there was one teacher who was staying in Boston for a short time, and she wanted me to go to Dallas with her because Prabhupada had just opened up the Dallas Gurukul. So she wanted to go there and be a teacher, and she needed an assistant, so she brought me down there. And I did teach some typing to some of the teenage boys, and I helped her with her English class, typing and everything. We made a little book and all. And actually when Prabhupada heard that I was teaching the boys typing, he said, no, they should not learn typing. They can learn that from the sannyasis later on when they travel to sannyasis. Now they must learn the Sanskrit and English and Shastra, not typing. So he stopped that. Again, I sent a letter for initiation, and I finally got my letter back. And I got initiation in Dallas. See, this temple, and I was the temple secretary there also. Very quickly I came to see that there were no records of anything in the whole temple. And so I kind of took it over, the office. And I even the children, we had so many children, I forget how many we had there, but it was maybe up to 100 children. And practically none of them, we didn't know who the parents were, we didn't know their names, we didn't know the addresses, where they were from. We just had children. And nothing, no records whatsoever who they were. So my first thing was to find out who all the kids were and where all their parents were. And the official letter signed by them that they allow the children to stay in the school. And then I had to go to the municipality and try to get the school accredited by the municipality. So all this was going on. And then I was called to India. But meanwhile, first of all, one time Prabhupada came to Dallas, and he came in the temple room. First he came in, when he came to Dallas for the first time, he came in the temple room, and my god sister Nandarani was there taking care of the deities. So as soon as Prabhupada walked in the temple door, she pulled the curtain so Prabhupada could have darshan of the deities, Radhakalachandji. But instead of doing that, Prabhupada just said, Nandarani, how are you? And she just burst into tears, and so did I. It was such a beautiful, touching thing. First of all, he saw Nandarani, then he saw Radhakalachandji. It was so beautiful. Anytime any visitors, Prabhupada said there, anytime any visitors are coming, they must always get some prasadam. Even if there isn't any prasadam, go in the kitchen and give them something. Make something or give them something. They must have some prasadam. Nobody can walk away from that temple without having some prasadam. So even if you had to cook for them, you had to. Or give them an apple, or do something. You cannot let anybody come and visit and not get prasadam. There was a very strict order there. Let's see. One time in the parking lot. I wanted to get a chance to speak to Prabhupada, but I was always so busy and all. And Prabhupada, I heard that Prabhupada took a morning walk in a certain area, and he would come back into the parking lot behind the temple in the morning and then go to his room. So one time I was there in the parking lot, and I said, now is my chance to talk to Prabhupada. So he came in, and he had only 2 or 3 people with him. And I stood there in front of Prabhupada, offered my obeisances, and I stood there in front of Prabhupada, and he was right there, right next to me. And I just was struck, was struck with, stunned. And I couldn't speak. I just looked at Prabhupada and I couldn't speak. And finally he said, chant Hare Krishna. And he walked away. My second big mistake. I'm always making mistakes. Chandan. One of my duties there in that Dallas was I used to make the chandan for the deities every day. And Prabhupada, one day they came and told me, you can't make chandan anymore. And I was totally devastated. Why? And they said, Prabhupada said, from Kartik Mas until Shivaratri, it's too cold for chandan, and no deities can have any chandan. And they said, if you want to put any chandan at any other time, it always goes on the Vijayutsa deities and never on the big deities. Never put chandan on the big deities. And some devotee had asked why Prabhupada, and he said, do you want your deities to be there for 100 years or for 700 years? So that was that. You just only put the chandan on the Vijayutsa deities. So, okay, and then he said many other things too. That we should never change the look of the deities how they are painted. If they need retouching, then all we should do is just touch it up. Never change the look of the deities. They should always look the same. And let's see. One time all they had was Radhakala Chanji, big and small. And the devotees wanted to add Lord Jagannath to the altar. They also wanted to add Lord Nrsimhadev picture. So Prabhupada came and he said, Lord Jagannath is the same. He's just an expansion of Radhakala Chanji. So you don't have any ceremony. When you have five sets of clothes, you just put them on the altar. And the devotees were so disappointed. They really wanted to have a big ceremony for Lord Jagannath. Prabhupada would not allow it. They just said, no, you just put them on the altar. And then they said, Lord Nrsimhadev picture, it's okay to put him there. And he said, Lord Nrsimhadev, he can't stand with Radharani. You have to make a whole temple for him. So then again they said, how can we make another temple for Lord Nrsimhadev picture? So he said, he can stand next to Lord Jagannath. But he can't stand next to Radharani. There was a japa tape, and there's still a japa tape that goes around, and Prabhupada chanting japa. And we used to have it in the morning, a japa period, and not everyone in the temple room would chant japa with the japa tape. And it came to Prabhupada's notice that we were doing that, and he immediately stopped it. And he said, you must hear your own japa. Don't hear you can hear my tape at another time. But japa period, you hear your own japa. So he stopped that practice. Parikramas also, there was a way to go do a parikrama around the temple there. And he also, when he heard about that, he didn't give any explanation, but he said, don't do it when the doors are closed, only when they're open. He did give an explanation. Later on in Bombay, and I'll tell you that then.
Brahmananda told me that it's because, when the doors are closed, the deities are either eating or sleeping or resting.
Yeah.
And you're demanding him to take
Yeah.
a reciprocation with you, but
Yeah.
they're doing something, so
Yeah.
we don't do that.
Yeah, I'll tell you what he said about me. So then, okay, I think that's all in Dallas. Then from Dallas, there was a phone call from Tamal Krishnaraj to me that they wanted to have someone start an office in Bombay. Prabhupada said that he wanted his world headquarters in Bombay. So they wanted someone to come and do an office there. So they sent me to, I didn't want to go. I said, no, anyone who comes from India, they're always sick and dying. I don't want to go to India. So he promised me on the phone only for 3 weeks and he'd go right back. So I said, okay, if it's only for 3 weeks, I'll go. So I had to go and bring my big IBM typewriter, and it was really not easy to do all that. But I had to leave everything in the airport and just take only the typewriter. But I got there, and of course the electricity in Bombay in those days was so bad. Anything you touched, you got such a shock. You couldn't touch it again. And immediately destroyed the IBM typewriter. Had to send it away for fixing, and it was really difficult in those days. And so somehow or other, it took me a long time, many months, almost a year, to actually create a whole office system there.
What year did you go?
1973. And Prabhupada, after I first arrived there, Prabhupada did come, and he did say, and that was just like right after Janamastami or something, he did say that I could have second initiation. But Tamal Krishna he made me wait until Gorpanima time and have it on Gorpanima Day, which I'm glad for that, But
You tied my neck beads on that.
yeah. And Tamal Krishna actually gave me my first Tulsi neck beads. He had gone on some kind of a Sankirtan on one of the jeeps, and he went to Vrindavan and he got some japa beads and neck beads and things and brought back and gave me my first neck bead, my first Tulsi neck beads, my first Tulsi japa beads, because from Dallas we only had regular wood. We didn't have anything there. So that was very nice. One time in the small temple, we had a small temple there, a temporary temple, and there was a crow who was very, very greedy. We'd have the temple, we'd have the RT tray already, and he would swoop down and grab a geewick and run away with it and eat it. And he did this every day, many times. We never could stop the crow. He was very clever. Santa Cruz Airport.
Is it Bombay?
This is all Bombay now, small Bombay temple. Reading straight through the Prabhupada at the Santa Cruz temple was very, very ecstatic. It was at that time, it was a small airport. It's been burned down, it's not there anymore. But at that time it was just a very wonderful, we were all allowed, all the devotees were allowed in, and we did big kirtan, and we would do a whole RT for Prabhupada right there in the airport. And they would just let us do it. It was so wonderful. Then sometimes I would make mistakes. One time Prabhupada was there in the airport, and we were having a kirtan, and he went like this to me. I guess it meant he wanted to play the kartals, but I was playing kartals, and I was thinking, he doesn't think I'm playing it right, so I was trying to play the kartals better and better. And actually, later on, I found out that he took kartals from someone else. Actually, he wanted the kartals. I didn't know. So, another mistake. Let's see, changing our names. because I was there in the legal department, I had sort of like a legal business to do there. The American Embassy objected that some of the papers that we signed were in our devotee name and some were in our legal name. So they made 3 of us devotees not change our name, but add our name, also known as. So we had to have, so legally my name is also Aditya Dasi, because we had to do that for signing papers. Hanuman Kutir. Now this is a nice story. There was a part of the Hare Krishna land, or a little square of the Hare Krishna land, which did not belong to Mr. Nair. It belonged to Mr. Ratnapaki. Now he didn't always live in Bombay. He actually lived in Pune. So it was not so easy to connect with him. And Prabhupada wanted that piece of land also. It was like a cut-out piece of the whole Hare Krishna land. So finally, he agreed that he would sell it to Prabhupada for 50,000 rupees. And so we had to go to to Mrs. Nair's house. Several times I went there with Tamal Krishna Raj, and she was like the mediator, and she finally got the papers, and they were all signed, and we got the Ratnapaki papers from her. She was very gracious host. And Mrs. Nair, after Nair left, Mrs. Nair was there, we had to deal with her. In the front of her entrance of her house, she had this huge tulsi plant. Though she seemed to us to be almost like a demon, she had this beautiful, beautiful tulsi that she worshipped every day, huge and growing so nicely. So she really was a devotee at heart. Otherwise, tulsi would not have grown there. The Hanuman Kutir was on that land. Now there's a story, history to that little piece of land. And it goes back to when the Mughals had come to India, to Bombay. The story goes that 5 Brahmanas were living in a small Hanuman temple on that piece of land. And the Mughals came and chased them off the land. And they cursed the land. And they said that there will always be unrest on this land. No one will ever be able to live peacefully on this land. And after some years, and I forget how many years it was, like 400 or 500 years later, we will take birth in foreign countries, and we will come back and we will chant the Lord's name on this land. So this was the story. So when the Mughals didn't have it very long.
Was it like locally known?
Locally known, everybody knew it.
Everybody, wow.
And so, after some very short time, the British came and they kicked the Mughals out. But the British couldn't keep it. There was a chain of disciplic succession of ownership of that land. I had to practically learn it by heart. I had to type that paper up so many times. And everybody had it. 2 years, 6 years. I think the most that anybody had it was like maybe 8 years. Nobody could keep that land. They had to sell it, Nobody could hold on to that piece of land. The curse was there. And no one could keep it, and no one could be peaceful there. So then, after somehow Ratnapaki was the last one to have it, then he sold it to Prabhupada. And then Prabhupada came there with his Western devotees, and they came and they chanted Hare Krishna all over that land. And all the local people said, yes, now the Brahmanas have come back. The curse is gone, and now everybody stays there peacefully. The land has not shifted ownership ever again, because the curse is finished. Those Brahmanas were there, and Prabhupada's disciples. So, let's see. Prabhupada made an inspection tour. Now, where that Hanuman Kutir was, that was just a Hanuman Kutir, just a house. But underneath that land, because that was several hundred years before that the temple was there, when they started digging up the land, for the new temple, they found pieces, the cornerstone pieces, 5 different cornerstone pieces, showing in the ancient Marathi language that there was a Hanuman temple there. So they found the evidence that it really was there. And they still have, I think, 1 or 2 stones left there in Prabhupada's quarters. And but the Hanuman Kutir was a little low hut, like, and it didn't have electricity until practically the day before I got there. They just put like a ball bearing here and there, and I had to stay in that place. And right, only a few days after I got there, then Prabhupada came, a few weeks. Prabhupada came and he wanted to inspect the Hanuman Kutir. So he had never seen it, and so he came and they brought him up. I was in my office over in the John Society, and they told me Prabhupada's coming to inspect the Hanuman Kutir. So I had to run back and try to clean up my room, see if it was all right. But I didn't get there in time. Prabhupada was already there. He was climbing up the stairs, rickety old stairs to go up to the first floor. And as he climbed up the stairs, it was so rickety, and the balcony was so rickety, almost he was falling. And so first thing he said, fix that, means the balcony. Then there was one light bulb hanging from high up, and from the attic, like, it was hanging down onto the stairwell. And it was swinging back and forth, and Prabhupada said, fix that. So then he got to the first floor, and he wanted to open my room and inspect it. And of course, the Indian locks in those days, you just absolutely cannot unlock them. The key just doesn't work. And finally it will work. So that's what happened. It took some time to open it up. And we didn't have windows. My room, I was sharing with Dina Tarne. We didn't have windows. We just had shutters. So the shutters, of course, were open. And all the birds had come in, and they were flying around and doing their business, and all over the place. It was just totally like, it looked like chaos. Though we had cleaned it in the morning, it just looked all dirt and dust and chaos. And Prabhupada turned, he didn't even walk inside, he turned around and said, who lives here? And I was so scared to death, I couldn't even say it was me. So then he walked out and he went to the next room, which was Gandiva's room, Gandiva and Jagapurush. And of course Gandiva stayed in her room. So her room was beautiful. Beautiful, clean, and just really, just a nice grihasta room. And from the front door, you could see all the way through to her window. Through her window, you could see all the way through to the Shivalaya temple across the street. So that was a very nice darshan. So Gandiva showed Prabhupada, and he was very impressed. Oh, this is very nice. You have darshan. And so he was very impressed and happy with her room. Then he left. Then he left the inspection. So. Let's see now. Every day after the morning walk, Prabhupada would have darshan of Radharas Bihari in the small temple, and he would stand there and he would look at the little deities, and tears would not fall from his eyes, but his eyes would well up with tears every day when he would have their darshan. So that was very beautiful. I would stand on the one side and I could see him having the darshan every day. Sometimes, at that time I used to be cleaning his room. It was one of my savers was to clean his room, and most of the time when he was on his walk, I was cleaning his room, and I tried to run down to go to the temple to catch him, to see him have the darshan. And sometimes Krishna didn't have a flute, or the fan would not be on. Something would be wrong, and he'd always give me the evil eye, like, it was all my fault, and I wasn't even there. But somehow my Prabhupada would look at me like, what is this? I never could do anything like that, and, just go save us. One time, one girl painted Radharani's hand and Krishna's hand, very bright red. They're bright red here. But there in Radharani Bihari temple, when he saw it, he called Giriraj Maharaj and he told him that it's not the color of Krishna's hand, it must be more like pink color. Gulabi, he said, gulabi color, not like this bright red. So he changed that. Of course here they do it and he's seen it, so it's all right here. The morning walk, Prabhupada would go to the Arabian Sea every day and then come back. And one time he came back and when devotee was doing parikrama around the little temple and chanting Hare Krishna and just going around the temple and the doors were closed. So Prabhupada said, you tell him he cannot do circumambulation around the temple when the door is closed, because Krishna is inside and he's bathing, and he wants to come out and greet you. But how can he come out and greet you if he's doing something inside? So when the doors are closed, we cannot do this circumambulation. Of course, all the temples in Vrindavan do that. Then one time, there was a big Tulsi garden in the backside, and a Gandhi statue was there, and a very big Tulsi garden, at least 50 Tulsis, maybe more. And there was one devotee taking care of her, and when Prabhupada went on his morning walk, then the devotee asked Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, there's so many spider mites eating the Tulsi leaves, what should I do? And Srila Prabhupada said, they can eat all the leaves they want. You can't do anything. He wouldn't give them any answer what to do. They can eat all the leaves they want. Prabhupada saw all the living entities in Hare Krishna land as very, very special. He couldn't kill anything. And many times he said Hare Krishna land is not different from Vrindavan, not different from the temple room. And I used to go around, quite often I would go around myself and clean up all the little scraps of papers and stuff, as I would say, Prabhupada said it's not different from the temple room. So I would try to keep it clean. And let's see. We had one time we had to deal with the Central Bank of India downtown. And there was transferring of papers and transferring of account money and such things. And the bank would always charge 4 rupees. But they had told Prabhupada that he didn't have to pay the 4 rupees. So one time they overcharged the 4 rupees. And Prabhupada was so angry. And we had to write a letter to the bank explaining to them that you can't charge that 4 rupees, so it's gone. And it cost many, many more rupees than that to rectify the 1 4 rupee mistake that he made. But Prabhupada was very adamant, don't let them get away with that 4 rupees.
It was also a precedent, so they wouldn't do it again.
Yeah, they couldn't do it again, yeah. Then we had a god sister named Rashtrapalika, and she was married to Nitai Das. And he was with Prabhupada, and they were in Bombay, and she arrived from America, and with some ashes, some devotees' ashes. Some devotee had died, and she arrived with the ashes of the devotee, the temple she was from. She had promised them she would bring the ashes to Vrindavan, and put them in the Jamuna. So it was brought to Prabhupada's attention that she was here to do that. And Prabhupada said no, she should put the ashes in the Juhu beach. So she was very confused what to do. Prabhupada told her this, and the devotees, she had promised the devotees, I'll give them in the Jamuna, and he wants me to just put them in the Juhu beach. But Prabhupada insisted. He absolutely insisted. He would not let her bring the ashes to Vrindavan. She had to put them in the Juhu beach. So he saw something about Juhu beach that was very, very sacred and very pure. He saw it. When Prabhupada would come, this is a very nice thing. when Prabhupada would come, and from being out of station, the tenant, there was a small road that went around the backside to all the tenant houses. And the tenants would come out the first time Prabhupada would arrive. Tenants would all come out and all line up all along that road. All of them would come out and line up and greet Prabhupada. They were so respectful to him and so affectionate for him. And every time they would do that, and I would feel, oh my, how much the tenants loved Prabhupada. They'd come out and just greet him like that.
Do you need some water?
Maybe, yeah. The cane. When Prabhupada would get out of, Prabhupada would come to see the deities. Sometimes in the afternoon he would give Bhagavad Gita class. And he would come from his room in the car, just that short distance. They'd take him in the car and he'd get out and walk along from behind the temple. This is the small temple. From behind the temple, there's a small little path. And then he'd come around into the temple. And we would all line up, a bunch of devotees of us would all line up on that pathway as Prabhupada would walk by. We offer our obeisances, put our head to the ground when he was walking by. And he would tap the ground with his cane. And it was just a really mystical thing. As he would tap the ground, it would seem like thunderbolts were touching the ground. It was so loud, like thunderbolts, like he was almost going to crash the whole planet in half. And it was just a tap, but it was so powerful. It's really difficult to understand what we would hear. But he would just be walking by. Then, the same with the Vyasa sign foot pillow. We had a pillow by the Vyasa sign, and after Prabhupada would give a lecture and get up and go, I would run and put my head on that pillow. And it was a really mystical experience. Out of this world, I can't explain it. But to put my head on that pillow was so special. Every day Prabhupada he would distribute either the plate coming straight from the deities, the Maha plate coming straight from the deities, or else we had something, halava or something for him to distribute to all the people that would come to see him. And for the Bhagavad Gita class, maybe at the most about 100 people or two. And there were a bunch of kids that were always there. And they would come up and ask for more. And they would get in line and ask for more, and get in line and ask for more. And he would just keep on giving them maha and maha and maha to all the children again and again and again. It was really ecstatic. And one time I tried to line them up, like in an organized line, but it didn't work. They just ran to Prabhupada as soon as he started distributing. So that was kind of ecstatic. There was one boy there, a little boy, and his name was Om Prakash. And he was really a street beggar type kid. He did have a place that he lived, but he didn't have anything to eat at house. He had to eat in the trash bins, fight with the dogs. And he was really very poor. So when he would come, when Prabhupada would come, Prabhupada would give him maha again and again and again. And that's also in a Juhu video. You can see little Om Prakash there. And it was so nice. Later on, when he grew up in Juhu, he got Prabhupada's mercy like that. So when he grew up, what he wanted, of course, was to be a big Gunda. So he became the biggest Gunda in Juhu. But he still loves Prabhupada, he still remembers Prabhupada, and he favors ISKCON very much.
Who was he?
His name is Om Prakash.
Om Prakash. Did we ever see him again?
I don't know. I know he still lives down the street in Juhu, where he always did. Let's see. Sometimes after Prabhupada would finish giving prashadam to all the people, Then Lokanath Maharaj was Lokanath Brahmachari. Then he used to bring a bowl for Prabhupada and a lota to wash Prabhupada's hands. And then I would give Prabhupada a towel to wipe his hands. So that was kind of a sweet little exchange. Many times I had to change the covers for the Vyasa sign because it would sit in the sun all day and get all faded. So that was one of my favorite sevas. At one time, the devotees had a problem with prasadam, and Prabhupada said that they could hire a Brahmin caste cook to cook for the deities. If he was a pure Brahmana and he didn't smoke and he didn't take any, non-veg or anything, then he would be allowed to cook for the deities and for the devotees.
You ever find anybody like that?
Yeah, Shantilal's brother. He was there for so long. And even Shantilal came later. And I forget his brother's name, but he was there for years. Then, Siddhartha came. Yeah. One time, let's see, the sannyasis and different people serving Prabhupada were accepting services from other devotees themselves. So Prabhupada made the statement that no one can have anyone serving them unless they can guarantee that they can bring that person back to Godhead, or unless they pay them some money. But just free seva, no devotee is allowed to take free seva from anyone. Vishal Prabhu one time asked Prabhupada a question after a class, and apparently the question was coming from Los Angeles Temple, and he had just arrived in Bombay, and he said that, Prabhupada, I heard that you said that the Grihastas only have a 75% chance of going back to Godhead, because they weren't Grihastas. So Prabhupada became a little bit angry, and he said that whatever Prabhupada says, and he said it very strong and very loud and very strong, whatever Prabhupada said is in my books. If you want to know what I said, you read my books. That was his answer to that. Prabhupada had a mosquito net. We used to put a mosquito net on his bed every night. And one time he came from Vrindavan, and he had just had malaria, and he was, it was very horrible here for him with that malaria. So then he came to Bombay, and he told Palika that you put the mosquito net up, and he said, if you find any mosquitoes, kill them inside the net. He said many times, of course, but he also said it in Bombay, that there are the favorite places in the world: Mayapur, Hawaii, and Juhu. Mayapur, Hawaii, and Juhu were his three favorite places in the world. Why? Because they have the palm trees. He said, wherever there are palm trees, that is paradise. And at that time, when Prabhupada said that, we had more than 200 palm trees on Juhu. So he really liked it there. Wherever there are palm trees, that is paradise. Then there's a doormat. Am I speaking too much? Other people are going to speak.
You can go on for 5 or 10 more minutes.
Okay, there's the doormat story. The doormat. I was taking care of Prabhupada's, cleaning Prabhupada's quarters when Prabhupada would go on his morning walk, and Devi Shakti was cooking breakfast for him. So one day, there was this big welcome mat right outside his door, at the top of the stairs. There were 2 flights of stairs, and at the top of the stairs there was this welcome mat. and it was so dusty, and I was banging it and banging it and banging it. I could not get all the dust out. It just seemed to have more and more dust instead of becoming clean. So I said to Devi Shanti, I think it's better if I put this doormat down at the bottom of the stairs. And she said, I don't know. I said, I think probably like it better down there, it's so dirty. She said, I don't know. Then, anyway, I took it, we went down the stairs, and I took the mat, and I put it there in the bottom of the stairs, and as soon as we got down at the bottom of the stairs, the Prabhupada came in the doorway of the stair, doorway with Brahmananda. And he saw the mat, and he said, he turned to Brahmananda, and he said, who has put this here? And Brahmananda, glared at us, and we didn't speak a word, and then he just kept glaring, and then I said, Srila Prabhupada, I put it there. It was so dirty, and I cleaned it and cleaned it and cleaned it. I couldn't make it clean, so I thought it's better to put it down here. And I just kind of blurted it out, and Prabhupada didn't say a word to me, and he turned to Brahmananda again, and he said, bring it back up. Then as they were going up the stairs, Brahmananda turned to me and he said, now you're in big trouble. Scared me to death. But in the afternoon, I would go up there sometimes and bring his coconut and chandan and all for his afternoon, and garland for him in the afternoon. And I saw the mat was not there by the door. So then I went inside, and it was not in the reception room either. Prabhupada was in his bedroom, so I went in the darshan room to put the coconut and all down. And there was the mat inside the darshan room, the dirty, filthy mat. I couldn't believe it, that Prabhupada put the mat inside there. So then there was like a walkway to go from the doorway, from that mat, to over where he sat. And then it was all big, like Marwadi mats. And so I thought, well, from the mat, his feet are going to get dirty, so I'll just put a runner down, so from the mat to his seat, I'll put a runner so he can walk on the runner. But afterwards, when he came in and he saw the runner, he immediately made him pick it up. He didn't want the runner. So whatever I did was not exactly the right thing. Okay. Someone else is speaking.
Okay, so we'll have other speakers now. Thank you very much for Aditya Prabhu. We'll have you, you probably have at least another hour's worth too.
Yeah.
So maybe we can do it in another couple of days or something, if you have the time to do it for us. Thank you very much. So the next person I would like to call, I've never met her before. Her name is Aditya Devi Dasi. Oh, you're not Prabhupada? Oh, okay. Well, you're off the hook. Okay. So the next person I will call is our own Krishna Kirtan Devi Dasi. She can comment. Do you want the chair, or do you want to sit on it? Okay. Aditya, you can just use the same chair and just put the microphone down in her direction. Put it so that it comes to your lower lip, and then it's good sound. Thanks. You can introduce yourself and explain where you became a devotee and where you first met Prabhupada before you get into your whole nectar. Hare Krishna.
So my name is Krishna Kirtan Dasi. So I was in France in 1972. I was not even 15 years old. So at that time, Srila Prabhupada came to Paris city, and he had a big gathering in the middle of a park. And this is called le Jardin du Luxembourg. So a beautiful park in the upper area of Paris. And Henri Villas had got the authorization to chant and to celebrate in the park. And all the devotees had gathered there. And there was a fire. And I was young and I was attracted. I was a scout girl. I was a Christian from a family of Christian practicing people. And I was attracted and I came close. And there was a big gathering. I didn't know what it was. I had no idea about Krishna consciousness. All this was from another world for me. And the people were sitting around this fire, and Prabhupada just looked at me, and just this glance, for me was like he was catching my soul. And I didn't know what to do with that, It was like I had not the security, I had not the qualification to be there and to understand what was going on. So I just heard Prabhupada saying, well, you French people, you want equality, you want fraternity. For that, you have to join Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada was there, all these devotees, and all these French people curious, looking around, and Prabhupada was addressing all this audience. And I remember one time Prabhupada said, if you, a disciple means discipline. And this I could relate to that. And then it starts raining, and Prabhupada stand up, and he was so small for me. It was like a little Buddha, I had no idea what culture it was, what religion it was. And he just left, like Mataji was saying, just like not touching the floor, he just left. And it was so surprising because in the middle of this yagya, suddenly Prabhupada left and there was no real initiation, nothing. Everybody left and I didn't understand anything. And I just left and it was like I had been struck, from another world. And from that day on, my life changed. I became vegetarian. I started looking for India's books and culture. I had friends doing yoga and meditation, so I started doing meditation. And my parents could not recognize me. I would not take food in the home. I didn't like what they cooked anymore, and I started practicing meditation and chanting mantras. And it was like a turnover in my life. And in France, at that time, you had to be 21 to leave your home. So my parents would never allow me to go anywhere and to live with anybody. So I had to go on with my studies. I was in high school. I went to teacher college training center. And one friend of me at that time, he was also doing meditation. He said, I want to take you to a place, I'm sure you will love that. And one Sunday he took me to the Rue Le Sieur. There was a temple there at that time, Rue Le Sieur in Paris. It's a beautiful place also near the Triumph Arch in a rich area of Paris. And he took me there, and just at the entrance, all these shoes and the bad smell, and I was thinking, where is it taking me now? And we went inside, and it was also amazing, this smell of all this cooking, all these spices, and the incense, and this atmosphere for me was, again, coming somewhere else to another world. And we just sat in a corner, we tried to understand what was going on. Then suddenly everybody went up. There was a big room on the first floor, and there they were serving on the floor some plates with some a little food on it, and I didn't have any idea what they would give us. It was in the afternoon. Usually we don't eat at that time. And there some devotees gather around us and so enthusiastic, so exuberant, and speaking things that was completely for me. I was thinking they have such imagination, and I couldn't relate to that. And he was like so convincing, so pushing, and we were trying to taste all this preparation from another world. I remember loving the halava. That was so sweet and like with the aroma of fruits, and I had never eaten such nice preparation. And then again chanting, and I loved the chanting. And we went out with my friend, and I remember in the tube we were chanting. I asked him, what was the song again? And he pulled out a little card with the mantra. And in the tube, I remember he was teaching me Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And we were practicing chanting in the tube, and everybody was just looking around. And so I went back to my teaching engagement, and finally I started going alone by myself to the temple. And one day it was pouring rain outside, and the temple president, he came to me and he said, Mataji, you don't go back. This time it's not good, it's too much raining. We will give you facility, you can stay overnight, you go to your school tomorrow. And I remember they offered me a place in the library on the second floor with a blanket on the floor. And they said I was already so happy because the library with all the books for me was fascinating. So I remember Aditya gave me the first canto, and he said, oh, you can read this. Don't bother with all the purport. Start reading the verse, you will understand the story, what it is about. So I started reading in the evening, and I couldn't stop, all this gathering in Misharanya, and all the sages assembled there, and the question, what you're supposed to think at the time of death, and I was reading, and I loved the book, I love all this answer. For me it was like being in the association of great sages and asking the real question of life. And I was reading, and I remember hearing some noise in the middle of the night, what's going on here? And I went outside and I saw this Mataji were up and taking shower, and it was so surprising for me. At 3 o'clock in the night, they were all up taking shower. So I asked, wow, what's happening? And they said, well, we have a ceremony, come take shower. They gave me a towel and everything. And it was really, I was in another world, And I took the shower at 3:30, and they helped me with the tilak, this name I could not pronounce. And they gave me some clothes, and I had no idea about how to wear a sari. And I went in the temple room, and I remember Lochanananda chanting this prayer at the Mangalarti, and I was there in front of the deity, and I remember crying. It was too much emotion for me. I could not handle the whole situation. And after, okay, they show me, you chant, they gave me a mantra, everything. And I went back to school. I was completely in another world. I had such difficulty to manage from this world to that world and be back in school. And I had the exam to be a teacher, and I had to make reports and everything. And I was thinking, how I'm going to manage this life, with this and that. And I was more and more attracted. I remember I had bought books, Bhagavad Gita as it is, and Krishna book, and 2 records, the Goddess of Fortune and Radha Krishna Temple. So I was hearing the records constantly when I was at home, and I was starting reading Krishna book and reading these books. it was like the answer to all my question. I felt really, oh, this is the goal of life. This is what I want to practice. This is where I want to go. So, and finally I went back again, and they say, no, it's not difficult. You just go to your school, you go to the principal, you tell them you are a missionary now, and you are joining, it's your vocation, you know, it's like a call from God, and you just resign. And they were opening a door that I could not even think about. So I did that with the sari and everything. I went one day to the principal with the tilak, and I said, okay, I have a call now, and I want to be a missionary, and we'll go to India. And they were completely overwhelmed. They couldn't believe what they were hearing. But Mrs. Verrier, you have such good marks, you cannot just resign like that. And so I didn't argue, I just went back to the temple and they asked me to clean all the stairs and all the floor and the bathroom, and cleaning day and night, and it was so dirty, so many devotees. And oh my God, I was thinking, oh Krishna, if you want me to stay here, you have to help me, because I don't know if I can go on like this, just cleaning all day long. And the teachers and the professors and all these authorities that I had before, they would come to the temple and preach to me, what are you doing? You know, you can't do that, you can't just drop everything from one day to another. Please give yourself some time, and we will take you again back, but please don't just take such a decision so fast. And I remember all these teachers coming, and the temple president was overwhelmed, and he said, oh Mataji, you know, we have a Sankirtan party traveling in Brittany. Would you like to try? And I said, oh yes, I would love to join that. And so they sent me to Brittany, and there the girls were living in trucks, taking bath outside with shower, with cold water early morning, little altar in the truck. And it was again a completely mystic experience. And we would go with sari door to door, distributing Srila Prabhupada's books in village in Brittany. And I remember in the summer of '77, we had a big marathon in the south of France. Yogi Chandra came, Aditya, so many leaders at that time came. And they told us how to distribute books. Now you wear calmly clothes, you give a flower, then you give a book, and then the book distribution, instead of 10 books a day, we start doing 20, 30, 50. It was amazing. And on the parking lot, in the train station, they opened us a new field, and we start distributing so many books. I remember one day I got 100 books on the parking lot. And Yogi Chandra, he phoned to Prabhupada at that time, and he told, oh, you know, now we are distributing so many books in France. And he started giving the name, oh, Bhakta Richard did that, and Bhakti Veronica did that. And I remember Yogi Chandra telling us, you know what Prabhupada said? He said, you have the blessings of his Guru Maharaj. So for us, it was amazing that he was not taking it personally. He was offering our service to his Guru Maharaj, and we received the blessing of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Prabhupada was just like a via media. He would not take anything for himself. He was empowered by the whole parampara, and he gave us the blessing of the parampara. And then I remember Prabhupada was sick. We were insisting for him to come back to France, and Prabhupada says, no, there is no question of separation. You know, I'm always traveling with you in your van. And Prabhupada would say, you chant here, I chant there, we are all packed together in the sound vibration. And the sound, the holy name is non-different from Krishna. So he would reassure us that he was with us always while we were preaching like this in France. And when he got very, very sick, I remember one time he told, okay, you can pray for me, but this is the prayer you should say. My dear Lord Krishna, if you so desire, please cure our Guru Maharaj. So I remember after Sankirtan in the evening, we would stop at home in our Sankirtan house. Now we had a little house. And there was a little photo altar. We would do, I remember, Kartik, Damodara Stakam chanting. And we would pray like this, my dear Lord Krishna, please, if you so desire, cure Prabhupada. And chanting Nishingadev prayer and praying all together. And Srila Prabhupada, okay, we got the initiation end of October in Mayapur. And right after that, we went back to Sankirtan distributing books. And then we received a phone call, Prabhupada has left, and we couldn't believe, what does that mean? Because we were always serving in separation. And for us, Prabhupada was always there with us. We were studying his books, distributing his books, and he was there in his teaching. So Bhagavan suddenly asked everybody to come to Paris for the celebration. We dropped everything, we came back to Paris. Everybody was in tears, and for me, I remember again this experience was really amazing, because even though devotees were crying, mourning, and still the temple was big kirtan, everybody dancing, and it was like a sweet and sour experience where devotee cries and at the same time they chant and they dance and they express their love for Krishna. So we were all there, and Bhagavan with all the leaders, Vishwambara, Dishika, Prabhava Vigra, so many leaders at that time, everybody in the small temple room, and remembering Prabhupada, having bhajan and chanting Yanilo Prema, and tears. I remember the atmosphere was so sad, and so many Mataji, they were thinking how we will go on without Prabhupada. But I had been trained right from the beginning to serve in separation. And for me, it would go on, we would be there with Prabhupada, with his books, with his teaching, preaching his message. And I felt now it just, there should not be difference. We should now just be serious and sincere and go on practicing what Srila Prabhupada has taught us. And there is no way to now be discouraged and leave, because the mission is there. Prabhupada has given us all his instructions, so there is no reason for this despair. So I had taken some notes of different things I wanted to share with you. You have no time?
Give us an idea how long, because Narayani also will talk.
Narayani will speak, and I can speak another day.
How long will that take?
Well, I don't know. I have written many things, so
Maybe
it's better if
10 minutes,
Narayani
15
can do.
minutes?
It's better if she can speak, and I.
She'll speak another day. This is very nice. It is so nice to hear that we're all packed up with Srila Prabhupada.
So I'm sorry, because so many of my god brother and god sisters, they had so much association personal with Prabhupada, like Govindasi, Yamuna Mataji or Aditya Mataji. I don't have this very intimate connection because I was always serving in separation. But I do remember the night I stayed in the library upstairs. When I got down, I saw the picture of Prabhupada, this big, high picture with a purple background that I can see in the Welcome Center here in Vrindavan. It was in Paris Temple in the stairs. And when I saw the picture, the photo, it's like the photo, I recognized Prabhupada, and it was like Prabhupada. I could see him through the photos. He was looking at me, and I just bowed down on the stair. I remember on the landing in the stairs, bowing down at Prabhupada, lotus feet, and feeling so sheltered, as if, oh, Prabhupada, he has taken me back, and I am again here at his lotus feet, but this time as a devotee, not just as a guest or as a kami. So, Srila Prabhupada. Yes, it's very appropriate to speak of Srila Prabhupada today, because actually in his books, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami has written, simply by remembering the names of all these Vaishnavas, one can obtain the lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Indeed, simply by remembering their holy names, one can achieve the fulfillment of all desires. So that's really amazing that Prabhupada is saying, actually just by remembering the name of a devotee, you can have all your desire fulfilled. And in the third canto of Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada elaborates again on this point. As one becomes purified by the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, so one can be purified simply by chanting the name of a holy devotee. The pure devotee of the Lord and the Lord himself are non-different. It is sometimes feasible to chant the name of a holy devotee. This is a very sanctified process. So this is also very interesting to see how it is recommended in the scriptures to chant the name of the devotees, as they are very dear to Krishna and non-different. And thus Krishna is pleased. There is a famous verse also that you must all know. Aradhananam sarvisham Vishnu aradhanam param tasmat parataram devi tadiyanam samacharam. Because in this verse, Lord Shiva is instructing his wife, and Goddess Durga Devi, my dear Devi. Also the Veda mention worship of the demigods. The worship of Lord Vishnu is topmost and most recommended. However, above the worship of Lord Vishnu is the rendering of service to Vaishnavas, who are very dear to the Lord himself. So I took some notes because I thought it was very interesting to see how Krishna is pleased when we serve like this, his pure devotees. There is another verse that Prabhupada quotes in Chaitanya Charitamrita. It is a verse from the Adi Purana, and Prabhupada is quoting that verse. It says, Lord Krishna told Arjuna, those who are my direct devotees are actually not my devotees, but those who are the devotees of my servants are actually my devotee. So it is very important for us to always remember that Prabhupada, he came to the West, he saved us, he engaged us in the highest. You know, I was heading to the heavenly planets. I had no idea about what was going on in the spiritual world. And Prabhupada, you know, it's like he grabbed our soul and he engaged us directly in the supreme Dharma, Paradharma, the service of the Lord directly. And the deities, I had no idea. And I was directly, by his mercy, engaged in serving the Lord personally, in preaching his message, in distributing these books. So our debt is so immense, you know, we can never repay our spiritual master. And actually the only way we can try, we can attempt to repay our debts is by giving to others all this transcendental knowledge that Srila Prabhupada has given us. You know, he has mercifully come to the West. He has attracted us. He said one time when he installed Shri Radha Parishishvar, he said, Parishishvar has come to Paris to attract all his young gopis. And so I could see that Prabhupada mercifully brought the Lord directly in the big city of Paris, with the center of sense gratification, particularly for the whole world. People are coming to Paris to enjoy it. And there Prabhupada installed Shri Radha Parishishvar, and he gave us the opportunity to enter in the contact, in direct contact with the Lord, through his holy name, through the deities, through the service to the pure devotees, distributing this transcendental literature. And so our debt is infinite, and by giving this transcendental knowledge to others, we are assisting our spiritual master in his mission. And this is the least we can do, you know, because now, okay, we have been saved, we have received the matchless gift, and it is our duty now to share it with others. So, Prabhupada also said one time, so 72, after he came to Vrindavan, and he had this famous Kartik seminar at Radha Damodar, where he had been staying before. And Prabhupada said, I eternally reside in my rooms at the Radha Damodar temple. He said that many times. So if we feel separation, and if we want also to be with Prabhupada, we can always also visit his room there in Radha Damodar. It's safe. You have his little kitchen, the window. You can see the samadhi of Rupa Goswami. Srila Prabhupada had a dream where Rupa Goswami, Jiva Goswami, they came to him and they said, now it's time. You go, we will be with you. You go to the west, we will assist you, we will be with you always. So Prabhupada, with his Nectar of Devotion, the book of Srila Rupa Goswami that he had translated in English, you know, he distributed this transcendental knowledge of the Goswamis. And I remember in France, this is one of the first books we had, you know, the first canto of the Bhagavatam, the Bhagavad Gita, the Krishna book, the Nectar of Devotion, and the Nectar of Instruction. That were the first books that were translated in French. And thus I was also very surprised, because as early as 77 we had this small Upadeshamrita book in France, and Prabhupada wanted us to distribute it to the mass of people. He wanted us to give this nectar of instruction about the highest Radha Kun realization, Srimati Radharani, and all this highest subject, just distributed to anybody, anywhere, without discrimination. So I could see that Prabhupada was really empowered by Lord Nityananda, who broke the storehouse of love of God and distributed freely to everybody. Prabhupada, with the same mood, he gave us the highest, directly, without any qualification, without any prerequisite. He didn't ask anything, you know. He was giving lavishly love of God. And we received it. We were completely unqualified. We had no adhikar at all for such transcendental knowledge. But he made us qualified by engaging us in Harinam Sankirtan, distributing prasad, distributing his books, serving in the temple. He helped us clean our heart, and he engaged us as assisting him in his transcendental mission of giving love of God to anybody without any discrimination. So we are eternally grateful, and we would encourage everybody, like Parvati Mataji is always saying, when you meet people, at least tell them Hare Krishna and at least a few words. So it is our duty now, when we meet others, to just share this nectar of Krishna consciousness with others, and say a few words. And I can see many Indians, they are very grateful when we stop and when we share with them a little words, and they want to hear. They want to know why we dropped everything, why we became devotee, why we are now living in Vrindavan. What is so extraordinary about this Krishna consciousness that we have dropped all our materialistic way of life to just become surrendered soul at Prabhupada's lotus feet. So by sharing your experience with others, you are also inviting them to join this transcendental mission and to assist Srila Prabhupada in his mission. So thank you very much for your...
Thank you very much, Krishna Kirtan Dasi. We're very happy to hear all these nice realizations about Srila Prabhupada. I haven't actually read before, but of course, chanting the holy names of the devotees. This is a very wonderful thing. A few days ago, we had Navyagendra Maharaj speaking, and he said that at one point, he felt so disturbed that he just started chanting Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Prabhupada. And he felt so much better that now he chants, in addition to his 16 rounds, now he chants 3 rounds of Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada.
Yes.
And he feels quite centered by doing that.
And if some wants a direct quotation, it's in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adilila 9.5.
Wait, which
These two quotations
Adi 9.5?
Chanting the devotees, chanting the name of the devotees, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adilila 9.5, and Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, chapter 28, verse 18. So those who want these quotes, I can give them also later, because it's really amazing how as one becomes purified by the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, so one can be purified simply by chanting the name of a holy devotee. The pure devotee of the Lord and the Lord himself are non-different. It is sometimes feasible to chant the name of a holy devotee. This is a very sanctified process.
This is Prabhupada's purport.
Yes, Prabhupada's
So there you
purport
have
in
it.
the 3rd canto. Yes. Srila Prabhupada, he was Sakya Vaishnava, the holiest devotee, 100% pure devotee of Lord Krishna. And thus, Krishna is very pleased when we chant his name. That is. If you have any other comments or questions, you can pass the microphone. I'm available.
Can you read that Adilila 9 chapter?
Yes, Adilila. So in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami wrote, this is Adilila 9.5. Simply by remembering the names of all these Vaishnavas, one can obtain the lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Indeed, simply by remembering their holy names, one can achieve the fulfillment of all desires. So very, very powerful. Prabhupada's name is very, very powerful. And when I see the great Prabhupada at 7 o'clock and everybody is chanting Jai Prabhupada, and my heart is beating, I can feel, the strength of glorifying the pure devotees and taking him to the deities every morning. It's very, very powerful. So this is serving the devotees is the secret in spiritual life. Actually, if you want to keep only one instruction, it's serving the pure devotees. That is really the essence of Krishna consciousness, to serve these advanced devotees, these pure devotees, especially when it's such a Mahatma, Uttamadhikari, and Shuddha Bhakta. This is how you can get the seed of Krishna Prema, by serving a pure devotee. So Sadhu Sangha, Sadhu Sangha, Sadhu Sangha, Savat Shastra Hoy, Sadhu Sangha, Lava Matra, Sadhu Sangha, Savat Siddhi Hoy. So association of devotees 3 times association, just 1 minute of association, even 1 second. Lava Matra is very insignificant. This much association, then you get all perfection. So this is the essential instruction in Krishna consciousness.
So we've been hearing night after night from devotees who are so convinced of these very things. So if you're not convinced by now, we'll still have a few more nights of wonderful Katha with these wonderful devotees. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for coming. Tomorrow we have a new list of wonderful devotees.
No, I didn't get out of it.
I think so too.
That was,
That's okay.
that was 3:28.